What's going on, everyone? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture. A couple minutes late here. Guys, I was working on this show for all day long since I got off of work. I got off work early, went and picked up my son, came home. I'm listening to sources, listening to people's take. I'm reading comments on my last couple of streams and videos. I'm prepping my notes and everything, and I'm still here like running late behind. So instead of me giving like updates of what's going on with the channel while we let some folks get in, I'm actually just gonna make sure I got everything situated here. I got notes over here that we're gonna pull up. I know hopefully we're gonna have a couple special guests. I actually need to get those special guests the StreamYard link right now. So I'm going to do that. Again, welcome everyone. X11 Lee. Thank you for being here, Lee, because I know you had a lot to chime in on, I think, last show and then in the comments. So thank you. Simon's here. What's up, Simon? Morpheus is here. We're going to bring Morpheus on sooner than later in the show today. So I'm hoping Bronze Age Nerd. Guys, if you haven't checked out Bronze's live stream from yesterday, definitely check that out after the show tonight. I have that link in my description. I might play a small little clip from that stream that I think is very important. Let me send over an email right now to, let's see, my guest that I want coming on. Let me make sure I have their email. So again, we're taking a few minutes just to finish getting set up to let some folks get in. We have a lot to talk about, guys. A lot to talk about. And I want this message to be as clear as possible. I do want to listen to everyone's points of views. I want to listen to everyone's frustrations. But at the end of the day, I want us to focus on fact, or at least, of course, we don't have all the facts. I don't know why I have alarm going off. But I want us to focus on as much of the truth as we possibly can and approach this with humility and respect for ourselves and how we're operating, right? For Peach, for everyone involved. So let's get this link over to Morpheus to bring him on in just a bit here. Boom. Morph, if you're in the chat, just sent that open. Matt Stash, what's going on, Matt? Pedro's here. Spider Dude's here. Dan's here. What's up, Dan? All right, what else? I got my notes here. All right, just making sure. We're going to bring in Peach's tweet too, because I think another thing that's important here is Peach's tweet and her words are being pulled out of context completely. Okay. I got my water because we're going to be doing a lot of talking tonight. And my voice and throat is a little dry today, but I think I'll be good to make it. All right. So we got Peach's tweet. Notes, we need Bronze Age's a clip here because we're going to bring up a clip from his show, so hold tight. All right. Bronze Age. We got to go to Bronze's channel. Again, welcome everyone. A special Friday Night Live today because we're really diving into this issue of the New York Comic-Con of Peach Momoko controversy here. Of course, these cons bringing up so much controversy as of late. We're going to take a few more minutes before we actually get into the conversation of discussion, so hold tight, folks. Again, I want to have a conversation at this point that is different than anything that you've heard as of yet. I don't want to keep rehashing the same stuff. I want to move the conversation forward, etc., etc.
With comes out and says, "Hey guys."
All right. So how many people we got here so far. All right, we got a good amount of folks here. So I will say we do have Combo Buchanan this Sunday, 5 p.m. Pacific, guys, 8 p.m. Eastern. Link is below. Come check us out over there. I'm going to preface this a little bit before we bring in our first guest here. Most of you probably are aware of a lot of what's gone on. I'll keep it simple and short. New York Comic Con, Peach Momoko, free signatures. Free signatures all weekend, 10 per person. You get your 10, you can get back in line. And we had a scuffle that ended up being a controversy that was soon after talked about because Peach herself had to release a statement apologizing to fans. I think once word got circulating of this incident and of Peach's public comment that she posted, I think that's where things started being taken out of context. And I waited a good few days before I even did a video on it. And my video was based on the Bleeding Cool article. I read it. I gave some perspective. I felt that without knowing all the facts, I could definitely see that, there's a lot here that could cause some issues, being that allowing 10 free signatures and then allowing people to get back in line. I could see definitely anybody wanting to take advantage of that, whether they're a retailer, a vendor, an exhibitor, a collector, a flipper, whatever you want to call them. I could see anybody saying, I want to get as many as I can, maybe keep a few for my personal collection, maybe flip a few, make some money. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, the point that I wanted to be made was greed is something, right? And it takes over and it turns ugly. And that's the point that I was trying to make. We all as human beings have to do better. In my comment section, I got a whole bunch of people pointing fingers already. Oh, these influencers, whatnot, YouTubers. And I'm like, look, I'm trying to sit here and be empathetic to everyone involved. We know that we had an incident just recently at another con that involved vendors, resellers, etc. And I get it. People are upset. People are emotional. People want to react. But all I did was come out and did my live show. What was that? Yesterday, and said, you have to take heed. We don't know the facts. So don't come out and put people in boxes and start painting a picture based off of hearsay or simply anger and frustration. What's that going to cause? A bigger rift, a bigger divide and conquer. Wait until the truth comes to light. I think over the last 48 to 72 hours, we've had a lot more come to light. Again, big shout out to Bronze Age Nerd for doing what he did, having the folks on that he had on. And everyone that has shared with me in my comments of those videos that were there, sharing their experiences, to people posting on their Instagrams, telling their experiences, etc. MVP, what's going on? Yeah, that was definitely, I watched the whole thing today. That's another thing I was doing. Oh, Patricia here said, I did an interview yesterday about it. Yes, I definitely thank you for making yourself available to have that conversation as well. And thank you for being here tonight. Absolutely. So, okay, guys, we're not going to keep this individual waiting. We have a special guest that I'm going to bring on. I did extend an offer to bring a Bronze Age on. I know he's got a busy night going on tonight. Hopefully he can stop by and just kind of speak a little bit on, the interview that he did yesterday, and to just kind of have more individuals continue to push this conversation forward instead of me just talking tonight. But right now we're going to bring in Morpheus. What is going on?
Hey, what's going on, brother? Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
All right,
Audio's
sounds good. What's going on? How are you doing? How's everybody doing? It's Friday.
Yeah. Yep.
Boy, it's tired.
I had a good week myself, actually. It was a good week. How about
I'm
you,
trying to
man?
recover from New York.
Oh, yeah.
2 days to recover from New York.
Right. Okay, so you know what? I do apologize. I should have. I knew Morpheus was coming on. I did not leave your link to your Instagram in the description. But if you want to leave your handle, or here, what do you want to leave the handle in the comments?
Yes.
Awesome. Guys, if you're not following Morpheus on Instagram, please do so. Really good, positive individual to follow, whether for comic books or just for some good positivity in life. So definitely go give him a follow, folks. I do appreciate you taking the time to join me today. You were there were you there for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday?
So I was there as an exhibitor all week. So for the actual incident at the booth, at the table, I was there on Sunday. So again, if you go back to reference Bronze Age Nerds video, Haha You Wish was on there. Haha You Wish and I were together at the convention working together. He just happened to be there Saturday. He was there Friday, Saturday, and Sunday because he had a lot of Peach stuff he wanted to get signed for his personal collection.
Okay, so I want to look at this in a couple different ways. And I want the audience to understand this. First off, we have to understand that I think it's fair to say, especially with Morpheus here, we're going to take, we're giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's going to tell us the truth as he witnessed it, or his truth, which is from, his individual experience. And I think that most of the people that we've heard from, I think we could genuinely say that there's a lot of people out there giving their honest take on what happened. But it's up to us to, formulate. We have to take all this in and some stories might sound a little different, but maybe because people were there at different times, saw it from different angles, so you got to take that whole scope of things into consideration and put all the pieces together. All right. So right now, I do want Morpheus, I want to give you the opportunity to simply to provide us your take on the situation and take, as much time as you need really painting that picture.
Okay, so again, exhibitor badges, we're there early for a purpose, right? We got to help work booths and set up booths and get stuff ready for the day. And so I had not gotten my Peach signatures. I only had 5 books I wanted signed for my PC, right? So I knew Haha You Wish wanted to go back. So we was like, okay, it's Sunday. We've wrapped up a lot of our business from Friday and Saturday. Let's get there early. Let's see what that looks like. So we were there at about 9:30 at the table. And again, we were just kind of hovering around, and Haha mentioned that. So and a couple of other exhibitors were there. Plus, Peach was already there signing some stuff that she already prearranged with some other individuals, some stuff she was working on. And her manager said there on the spot, is about 9:35, almost 9:40. He's like, hey, we don't want people hovering around the table. We don't want this big conglomerate. Let's push everything back to the side. And we were like, okay, cool. We'll get out of the way. And then when it's time, we'll get in line. So we just stayed around. We dispersed, so there was nothing in front of the table. And then right about 9:55-ish, we started to form a line. So we had some individuals, again, we had exhibitor badges, and we're starting to form the line. And they then came out and again said, which they had done previously, say, okay, here's how we're going to do this. Exhibitor badges are going to automatically be pushed to the back. Okay, it sounds fine to me. I'm going to be in line regardless. And so the intent was, now we had other individuals that were not exhibitor badges that were already on the floor. They started to place in front of the line. So the line had already gotten back about 2 tables. So all the exhibitors were at least 2 tables back from behind Peach. Then as soon as 10 o'clock hit, it was that mad, crazy dash. And because the way the artist alley was set up, there was another room to where they filed all the I won't call them general population, right, with their regular badges and the VIP badges off in another room, and they were filed off. And then once 10 o'clock hit, they opened everything up and they would dash in. So there was literally a mad rush for Peach's table. And you see all these people just rushing the table, and then they're realizing, they're seeing where the line is at. And then all I see are VIP badges that were, you could see the colors of the badges, which ones were VIPs. And there was an individual that was maybe about 5 people in front of us that Haha even pointed out to me that he recognized. Hey, I remember this kid. He was in line with me yesterday, because Haha waited in line for 3 hours to get his signatures. And he remembered talking to that guy about their books. And this guy from that mad conglomerate of people that came running up walked up to this guy and started poking him in the chest. Say, who are you? What are you doing here? I need to be in front of you. And literally at that point, hands were then exchanged. And like, if you got somebody, and he's a young kid, forgive me for using that vernacular, but he's young to me. He was in his mid-20s, probably early to mid-20s, right? So I'm a grown man. So all I see is I literally see this guy getting poked in the chest. I'm like, does he know this guy? Like, do they friends? Are they just messing with each other? Next thing you know, he grabs him. It's like, hold on, why are you poking me in the chest? And then they start to shove a little bit. The security comes up and has to break them up. And now this is happening almost right in front of the table. You got the line of people. You got the line of people here. The scuffle's here. The table's over here. And at that point, that's when you see Peach kind of like, and the security's out there, and there's a lot of shoving going back and forth. And then you just, that's going on. You see Peach's manager there. You see Peach, and she's like, I'm done. You see her just get up, and she's kind of wiping her face, and she just bolts off, and so that's what I saw. And I was like, is this really happening right now? Like, this is really happening right now. And again, Haha had told me about the day before with the VIP badges that were yelling about how they needed to be at the front of the line because they paid all their money for the VIP badges. And he was telling me about that incident.
Let me ask you about that. To your knowledge, so I don't know if this is different for individual cons or different cons, but specifically for 2022 New York Comic Con, that VIP badge, did that give them access to Peach's, to the front of Peach's line, or to any line that was already, when you're talking about artists doing these signings, was that guaranteeing them access or front of the line treatment for anybody?
So from my understanding, it was artist specific. So the individual artist would dictate who accepted the VIP badge for that. And Peach had already stated she wanted those with the general pass badges at the front of her line. She wanted to take care of her fans.
Right.
And that was already stated. The manager stated that and said everybody's getting to the back of the line, except for those who have their regular either weekend pass or their day passes.
Okay. So thank you for that. And I want everybody watching, because look, I want everyone here taking notes. If you are going to be invested in this situation and in this conversation further, if you're going to be watching people on YouTube, commenting or posting on Instagram, or just talking about this, have the facts, take the notes. You heard what Morpheus just said. He's stating that, to his knowledge, you pay for a VIP pass, and for all of those artists that are doing signings or have tables, it is up to them individually, their prerogative, on if they will allow VIP treatment, front of the line treatment. All right. Take note of that, because what you can do then is you could go start talking to other people that were there, or maybe other people that were working it, and seeing if they are under the same impression or understanding. And I will say this, with Peach doing what she was doing, she's working her butt off, giving her, autographs and signatures for free. So if I had the opportunity, I am an artist, not obviously to that capacity, but if being an artist was my job and I wanted to do something that she was doing, I can definitely understand making the decision that she made to say, we're going to, like you said, Jam Pop, we're going to treat the average Joes, we're going to treat them first, et cetera, et cetera. So, okay. All right. So I will say that your take so far aligns with multiple stories that I've heard from people that were there, including Haha that spoke last night on Bronze's channel. And again, folks, that link is in the description below. Another thing that Haha brought up, and I actually had conversations with some other, whatever you want to call them, vendors, influencers, whatever label you want to put on them, that stated this as well. It sounds that Peach was already, and I actually, funny thing, let me interject myself here. I had stated when I did my first video on this, reading the Bleeding Cool article, that something that might work is if an artist gets to a con and is done setting up and the doors aren't open, and you got exhibitors or whoever is in there before the doors open, and you want to say, okay, look, guys, I'm going to spend a few minutes with you guys. I will do some signings for you before the doors open. But once the doors open, I'm done. You got to go get in line with everyone else. But I had multiple conversations with people saying that Peach spent a lot of time while she was in New York meeting with retailers, vendors, folks that might sell on Whatnot, et cetera, taking time to provide them with either free services or that certain individuals, actually set up a schedule to actually pay for, exclusive signatures for a private signing. Are you aware of any of that?
So yes, so she did a lot of work that weekend. I'm not familiar with all of the individuals that she had private signings with. However, I do know that there were other whatnotters that had paid for private signings that got all their stuff signed prior to, and they paid for that. And I know that. I know a couple of them that did that. I don't know how many though. I also know that because we were helping to work on Trinity's booth that weekend, and we had a whatnot stream signing and remark with Peach that one of our team members was actually helping co-host. So those are the ones. Yes, they did have some that had private signings and they paid for that. The rest of us, we waited in line.
Right. All right. So I just want to, kind of circle back to what I'm trying to get out of this conversation tonight, folks. This is about putting things in perspective. The facts are on the table, plain and simple, that this was a certain individual, Peach Momoko, doing something that we don't see too often these days, out of the kindness of her heart, working her butt off. And it created a bad situation. Okay. I think we all can agree on that. And I think there's all takeaways that we can look at and learn from to say, where do we go from here? How do we improve on this? But in order to not be counterproductive and to find productive solutions, we need to continue to have these conversations and continue to get all the facts the best that we can before we start assuming and pointing fingers. So far in this conversation, and what the other conversations that I'm having, is that I feel so far that Peach and her team did what they needed to do to a large scale to tend to retailers, vendors, resellers, et cetera, which is, it's fair game. I mean, this is a business. You can't deny that this is a business, period. And anybody in those positions, retailer, vendor, whatnot, seller, whatever, is going to take an opportunity like that if it comes, because that's how they make money. That's how they pay the bills, et cetera, et cetera. There's nothing unethical there about that. That's the state of the business. We also have context that it seems that Peach and her team did the best that they can to look at the situation on the floor and to balance out what is fair. And it seems that the majority of the people there that were exhibitors, and Morpheus, I want to ask you this too, just in case anybody is maybe not fully understanding. So what is an exhibitor and who are they? What do exhibitors consist of?
So exhibitors consist of those individuals that help work with vendors and help to set up the booths, right? So because we were helping Trinity set up and run their booth, we literally had to fly into New York on Tuesday night so that we could help set up the initial table, bring in inventory, bring in stock, and set everything up and then prepare everything. And the reality was that even on the Wednesday night before the convention, everything was behind because there was issues on the loading dock. So everybody was scrambling to the last minute to get everything ready, and so were we. So that's one of the reasons that we have to get in early. Is not just to take advantage of things, but is to set things up. On the other note, on another side of that coin is that New York was great with this, because I can vouch for this, that every booth that I went to and was around, they would not sell to anybody until the floor opened at 1000, period. And we hear a lot of the stories about exhibitors and vendors like, hey, we got early access. We're going to go and buy all our stuff before all of the, before all the gin pop gets out there and starts hitting stuff. Nope. Every booth was like, we're not doing that. We've kind of learned our lesson. Let's make it fair for everybody and equitable for everybody. Nobody sold to anybody until 1000.
And again, I will say I had a lot of people commenting on my past live stream and video saying I was there, and they echoed that same exact thing. So that's actually really good to hear. And I think, like you said, I think, this is, one of the biggest cons of the year. we recently had C2E2, and I think probably a lot of vendors are on their toes and knowing that, you know, there's going to be a magnifying glass on how they're conducting themselves. So that's a good thing. I think that's a silver lining from all the drama that happened in Chicago. So hey, some forward progress there for sure. Okay, so and believe me, yeah, as a musician, I understand, you know, being at a venue for, you know, hours and hours beforehand. So, okay. Now let's play. I don't want to say this is playing devil's advocate, but I just want to be honest in my approach of looking at kind of how this maybe fell apart on a macro level, right? Because we have the incident, the isolated incident. And let me speak to that real quick before I get into asking this question about this macro analysis. This individual, folks, that caused the actual scuffle was not anybody representing Whatnot, representing a booth, representing a retailer, anything at all. I mean, we don't know who this individual was. Maybe they have an eBay store. Maybe they do have a Whatnot store. Maybe they flip comics. Who knows? But all we know is that they were Gen Pop. They did have a VIP badge, and he got up there and demanded special treatment, wanting to get to the front of the line, and what's the word I'm looking for? Initiated physical contact with another individual in line. So again, that's just for context. Everybody that was saying that this incident has to do with Whatnot, influencers, YouTubers, or whatever, I hope we can throw that out the window. And again, like I said, Morpheus isn't the only one here that was witness to that. There are countless firsthand takes of that going down, and they all line up. But now let's look at the macro situation here. And again, nowhere in my conversation or in our conversation today am I blaming Peach for anything. She is a huge victim in this, doing something out of the kindness of her heart. But we get in there and we have rules in place. 10 signatures. That's hefty. That's hefty. 10 signatures for anybody for free. And you can get back in line to get 10 more. Is that correct?
Yes, that is very correct.
Okay.
And the first 20 people were allowed $20 remarks.
Right. Okay. So were you witness to did you see anybody, and again, I'm not saying, a vendor or anything like that. Was anybody there with a full, like short box of books, standing in line or getting back in line, like taking 10 out of a box and getting back in line?
Nope, not in the line that I was in. The only time I saw any box that was near Peach's table was the individuals that had already paid for their private session, and they were finishing up their stuff to get out of the way for when 10 o'clock was going to happen. So the line that I was in, there was no short boxes. There was just people with their hands full of books and their little individual portfolios.
Right. Okay. So now I guess this is kind of playing the devil's advocate, and let's look at a hypothetical, because, I don't know if you were, trying to eyeball everyone that's there. Oh, they're for a vendor. What are they doing? How many books do they have? But let's look at a hypothetical. So say there's a booth, right? And maybe this booth has an online store. Maybe they sell on Whatnot too, whatever. But obviously they are a vendor, dealer / reseller, whatever. And, they got a good team of 4 or 5 people working their booth. And they're saying, hey, guys, let's take, we need 2 people working the booth. So 2 people need to stay here. So the 3 of you go line up, take 10 books, go line up, get your 10. And then, come back and we'll swap out. 2 more we'll go back in. Do you think that anybody was kind of, doing that there at this convention, knowing that these were free?
Probably.
Yeah,
probably, especially the day before. I mean, probably. I mean, that's, especially when you get a lot of flippers and, and resellers. I mean, they want to get what they can. you know, within the scope of the rules and the boundaries that are set there. So, I mean, if that's
Right.
the rules and that's the boundaries, if they want to take their time to wait that 3 to 4 hours in that line all over again, that's their prerogative, you know? So I ain't knocking that. And I'm pretty sure that that did happen, you know, but at the end of the day, like you said, haha, you wish. He's a seller on Whatnot. I'm a seller on Whatnot, you know? And so he waited 3 hours in line and I didn't because I was busy trying to scramble to hunt down books myself the day before.
Right. And I agree hands down with everything that you just said. They're following the rules that were set up. Nobody's doing anything wrong. Now, I'm going to again kind of play a little devil's advocate here.
Mhm.
What if I'm just an average collector and I really love Peach and I was right there being inundated with all this C2E2 drama. I like to buy exclusives once in a while, and man, that everything that happened with Black Flag, man, what? And then you again, not throwing anyone under the bus, but we know that there were some sellers that sell and whatnot, maybe. And again, you got to understand that these individuals weren't necessarily breaking the rules either, because I will say this, and again, I know it's a sensitive subject because of everyone involved in kind of the personal matters that came about, but I truly believe that the way Black Flag handled themselves at that convention was wrong and it crossed an ethical line. Okay, I'll just make that statement. And you look at the certain individuals or the sellers that were involved that were trying to get 50 copies or whatever, or maybe they pre-ordered, which again I think Black Flag should have never allowed if it was a con exclusive. But you got to understand, here I am. I'm just a collector. I'm going to New York Comic Con and I'm like, man, I really hope none of that is happening here. I really hope people learned, and we go and have a good time. I can go see Peach and get a few of my Peach books signed. And I'm in there and I do see, like, I see these people from a couple booths and they're like, I see people going and bringing back their books that they just got signed. And then they're coming back and maybe there's somebody else standing in line from their booth in front of me and they're handing them a few more Peach books. Or maybe I see another one coming back getting in line. I could sit there and be like, really, guys? Like, look at all these people that are here paying to get in. And you guys are like, and again, I don't know if they're getting special treatment or maybe I'm just a bit jaded because of kind of the state of things in recent past. Can you kind of be at least humble to the optics on how that may look?
Yes. So if I can speak freely.
Yes.
So after C2E2, I don't know if anybody happened to see, I did a video on, I was a guest on Reggie Collects.
Yes.
Speaking about C2E2, right? You did see that. So I'm a very empathic person, right? So I'm the one, I don't judge people, period, right? So when people feel things, their feelings are valid. Okay. I'm a combat veteran. I have PTSD. I've been through 15 years of therapy, and therapy has taught me a lot of communication skills. And I still go to therapy, and therapy helps me enhance those skills. So when I see individuals that are upset because of what they see happening in conventions that revolves around whatnotters, retailers, vendors, exhibitors, whatever the case may be, guess what? Their feelings are valid, right? Something has caused them to feel that way. But we got to remember, though, at the end of the day, feelings are not facts, right? There's a difference. So if you feel some way, your feelings are valid because you feel them, because something has made you feel them. Something's triggering you to feel that way because something has happened to you in the past, or you've seen something you don't like and it makes you feel that way. But we have to, as a people, we have to stop and think about those feelings and then think about what are the facts of the situation, right? When everything happened with C2E2, I remember seeing social media, YouTube, everything blowing up as it was happening. And my first initial thought was, well, what are the facts? I'm seeing people, they're talking about all these things and they're blaming people and they start bashing people and just went from there. And everybody behind the keyboards throwing their comments on social media. But why? Right? And they're trying to argue with people and we're going back and forth. Why are we arguing with people? Why are we trying to force people to believe what we believe to begin with? Right? We can't make somebody believe something. All we can do is state our piece, state how we feel, leave it out there. People either accept it or they don't. Right? So the people that feel that way, I don't blame them. I ain't mad at nobody. I'm a whatnotter. I sell on Whatnot. I was at the Hero House. That's what I do. I sell books, but we don't take the time to analyze the facts of what we do, right? I spent all my time. I had requests of books for people that couldn't be at the convention, right? And my job, and I'm still putting that all together, I'm going for people that couldn't be there to get books for them. And that's the reality of what we are doing here. Haha, you wish did the same thing. My whole crew did the same thing. We have all these people that follow us on Whatnot that can't be at New York that want these books. I spend more money than I make doing Whatnot. My retirement check from the military pays for my books. Okay. So I spend more money than I make because I care about my audience. I care about the people that are watching what we do. And that's what I try to do, is give something to them. And I have a very good following that loves that, right? At the very same time, again, if you go to my Instagram, you see I'm a motivational speaker. I'm a keynote speaker. And that's what I also do on the side for a living, right? So I don't blame those people for feeling that way. I can't. But I ask them to sit down and let's have a conversation and let's analyze those facts. Just like I said, the Whatnotters, these influencers, we have to hustle and grind too. And I was hanging out with the big name Whatnotters at New York, and nothing was handed to them for free. The only comps, the only books that were handed to people is if you had a slot at the Whatnot booth and you were on stream and you were promoting Whatnot, you got a stack of like 5 books. Here you go, run these to help promote Whatnot and run your show. Everything else we had to grind for. We're running around trying to get it before somebody else buys it. We're waiting in lines. No one let us cut lines, right? And I'm here with the big names. I'm watching them too. I observe. I want to see what's happening. I want to know how the game is being played because I'm trying to play the game too. I'm being honest, right? So this is what's happening in real life, and people don't take the time to consider the blood, sweat, and tears that goes down in trying to hunt these things down so that we can give books back to the community, at the end of the day. And the people that I see taking advantage of Whatnot the most are not even the big namers.
Yep.
I see people in Whatnot rooms that are price gouging books, but you don't even know who they are. You don't know these names, right? But these are the ones that are driving up prices on books. But all the big names, all I see are good deals and good prices. I get good deals and good prices from these guys.
Yeah.
So that is part of it, and that's one side. But at the same time, if someone doesn't like what I'm doing, I invite them to sit at the table, and I'm going to have an intellectual conversation with them, and I want to know how they feel, and I want to know why they feel the way that they feel, right? Why are they hurt? Why are they sad? Why are they mad? And then, okay, cool. Well, let's talk about this and let's work this out. So at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to, is individual accountability.
Yep.
At the end of the day, right? We talk about someone did this, someone did that. Guess what? At every family, you're going to have that cousin that comes to the barbecue that you don't like, that you wish didn't come. So in Whatnot, in the Gen Pop, in the retailers and the vendors, we all have bad apples. Yeah. But you can't judge the whole group. What's happening here is prejudice. And then let's define the word prejudice. We are being prejudicial and judging people based upon what we see from the outside on our lens, instead of looking on the inside and what's really going on.
Man, you just killed it, man. I mean, I'm just end the show. I'm done. No, but we got to talk about this. So many great points. I'm gonna go to your last point first, bringing up the prejudicial. This is, and I just got kind of like laughed, not really laughed. Friend of the channel, he was obviously upset. I offered him to come on, and he was busy tonight, but I know that he was upset and that he needed to express himself. And I said, we can't do it in the comment section. You got to come on. We got to talk about it. Come on, love. It's all good. But he was like, why do you keep acting like you don't know what influencer means? Because if you see me, anytime I bring it up, I'm like, influencer, I say it like that. But it's not that. Look, the reason why is because we are now using these words as buzzwords. And once something becomes buzzwords, any context of what that word actually may mean leaves, and it becomes prejudicial, like you just said. And it becomes a prejudice that we end up, we embody, or we hold inside here and just spew that vitriol that just comes out. So now it's like influencer has become that word. You could go into like Whatnot is almost becoming a buzzword at this point, so that's why I think it is very important for the dialogue to be fact-based or at least even if it's emotionally based, at least don't express how you feel without generalizing or just trying to use a buzzword. Okay, what if somebody says like, "Oh man, it's influencers ruining the hobby." Okay, strip it apart, take influencer, throw that away, and what are you really trying to say? What's really hurting you? So I really, really appreciated that. I want to go back to what you said also about the sellers on Whatnot. I'm up in Whatnot. I haven't bought, I don't think, really anything in Whatnot. I do get some credits coming in from, referrals, and then I'll have to use the credits on some stuff. But I'm sitting there watching shows all the time. I'll even go into like used clothes, random, like, because they got everything on Whatnot now. They're selling anything, estate sales, and I'll just go and hang out. And you're absolutely right. The people, the slimy ones that are sitting there saying like, "Oh, you're gonna let that go for this much," and or just come on, man, come on, bid that up. Like it's somebody that I don't even know who they are. They don't. I don't think they have YouTubes. They're not affiliated with an app, and that's the fact of it. But going back to the heart of what you were saying too, and I appreciate it so much, and I hope everyone here right now is really appreciating this. You nailed it to the T about how we do have to understand that emotions and feelings are valid. And I'm learning this too. And I was just having a conversation with X11 today about like, and this goes to politics, it goes to religion, any even real issues like race and gender and all these things that are very seemingly divisive right now. Like, I know it's hard, people. Like, it is very hard, especially if you're hurting, to hear somebody else's opinion, especially when you think their opinion might be hurting you.
Yep.
But they're probably feeling the same way about you, in your opinion. So we have to get uncomfortable. We have to push through that and realize that there is some common ground there. We need to, people these days think validation is getting a whole bunch of likes or hearts, on your, narcissism on social media. Real validation, though, is somebody letting you know that your feelings matter. But now let's talk about it. So, yeah, Morpheus, that's absolutely huge. Everything you said, I think, is the bread and butter of how we move forward on things and how we push this conversation forward.
So let me share a story with you, and and for those of you that saw me on Reggie Collects, I apologize. I'm about to repeat a story, but it's a very good example, right? So I was very quiet about the whole Black Flag incident. I didn't comment. I didn't say anything because I'm not going to add to drama. I refuse to add to drama. I want to talk about facts, and then I'll share how I feel after I've analyzed my emotions, so I don't lash out. So I made a post about the cover, the acetate cover, because the flag on that cover was folded incorrectly. And that's very disrespectful to the United States military and the United States flag. There's a flag manual that dictates how you do it. See that flag right there? There's a way that you fold that thing, right? And it was folded incorrectly. So I made a whole post about it. And, and people like, okay, I wanted to inform people about that. Like, hey, this flag's folded incorrectly. It was an Instagram post. You can go on my Instagram. You can see it. Myriad of comments, people, of course, supporting veterans, and I appreciate that. It's awesome. But there was one individual that jumped on there and said, "Why are we even talking about this? This is stupid. There's more important stuff to worry about." And he went off. He literally was like, "Why are we even talking about this? This is stupid. Why are we complaining about this right now?" So a lot of people that were in the comments started firing at him, like, "How dare you? How dare you assault a veteran? How dare you insult them? And how, this, that, and the third." And I started to type out a comment, but then I stopped. I took a deep breath. I deleted the comment. I went back. I said, you know what? This individual is probably upset about more than something else other than my post. He said there was more important stuff to worry about. Right. So I reached out to him in a DM, and it turns out that this individual is going through a lot of stuff with his family, personal issues to where they were being slandered. There is a lot of, they were dealing with a lot of private issues that was affecting his family on, a prejudicial level, for lack of better terms, right? And so we hashed this stuff out, and I told him to express himself. I was like, hey, your feelings are valid. Tell me how you feel and what you're upset about. And I didn't lash out at him. He shared his stuff with me, and guess what? Me and him are friends now on Instagram. And he apologized to me for lashing out at me. And it just took me to be able to take a step back, and just like, hey, what's really going on? And the unfortunate reality that we have to deal with when we're in a public spotlight, even right here, is that perception. I learned this in the military.
Yep.
Perception is reality, even when it's not.
Yep.
So once you see something, if that's what you think it is, that's what it is. And the rest of the world's going to believe that. That's a common thing in the military. Perception is reality. That's an unfortunate thing. So that's why we have to be very careful about what we say, how we say it, what we do, and how we do it. Right. So, that's very sad, but that is our reality. With what happened at C2E2, some people got labeled really harshly, and they didn't deserve it, but we had to talk about why that happened. So you said this, this is the big point, is we have to keep talking about this. We have to keep doing videos like this. We have to keep having chats like this so that people can come in, they can see, we can have good dialogue, healthy dialogue, right? The only way you can have growth from something to become better is by conflict. Right. Only conflict produces growth, right? But people get the misconception that conflict is always bad. No, there's healthy conflict. Yep. It's being able to sit down with somebody you disagree with, hearing what they have to say, validating them, saying, hey, I hear what you say, and I validate that. That's cool. But let me tell you my side, and let's talk about that without arguing, cussing, spitting at each other. That's healthy conflict. And from that, you got growth. And there you can move on from something.
Absolutely, guys. Absolutely. I hope you guys are listening, taking notes, like I said, because this is, and you guys could take, this is life right here. This isn't just, we're not talking comic books. Mm-hmm. This is life. Morpheus, I want to, how are you on time?
Oh, I'm good, bro. You got me all. I'm just packing whatnot orders. Orders.
Okay. Well, I'm going to bring in another special guest, and I do want to, I'm going to take the time a little with the three of you to kind of, change the conversation. I'm going to a little bit, because I want to look a little bit about more of looking at kind of the perception versus more of the facts that we have now that are kind of shaping the reality of the situation. I do want to review Peach Momoko's public statement, because I think that it in and of itself was getting taken out of context, her own words. But I do want to bring in another guest here. Very happy to have him on.
Can I say one more thing real quick?
Oh yeah, go ahead.
So this is not to hype us up, but I want to paint a picture for a lot of people that don't know what goes on behind the scenes with Whatnotters. So I don't really have a crew, but I have a crew, right? I have people that I'm very close to that we whatnot together. Genghis Sean, right. Comics Lounge, Haha You Wish, AT Comic, right? We do a lot of stuff together. DC Deadman fan, Mr. Jones. We have a whole lot of people, and we have for lack of better terms, a fan base, right? That come with us. They come to our shows. They buy our books, and all we get on a regular basis is positive feedback about how the way we run our shows, the way we run our auction. We don't just do it. We're at the end of the day, we're not just sellers, we're entertainers. And we're also therapists, because we listen to people in the chat and we provide feedback to people and we give people something that they need in the moment. I was at New York and I was in the whatnot section, and out of the blue, I hear someone say Morpheus. And I turn around and I was like, who is this guy? He's like, well, I'm War 69. I'm like, oh, you're in my rooms all the time. This man walked up to me, gave me a hug. He said, here, I bought t-shirts for you and all your guys. Oh, man. And, he said, I'm a retired police officer and I work the night shifts, and listening to y'all streams at night kept me sane, because he was tired and he was struggling and he loved listening to what we do. And we get that all the time. We make it, we have to realize that we impact people. You, sir, you impact people. Everything we say and do in the public eye, we impact people. So we have to be able to do that in a positive light, but that's what we do. Right now, Haha You Wish went to pick up an individual that couldn't go to the Magic City convention, whatever, there's another convention somewhere, and someone that couldn't make it because they weren't able to transport themselves. He went and picked them up and took them there for a day. But because that's someone who follows him on Whatnot. These are the things that we do. And we're very happy to do it because we love it, right? We love the people. At the end of the day, the people that I'm with, we love the people. We do this for the people. That is why we do it. Again, like I said, I don't make money off of this. I spend more than I make. I make back enough money to cover my expenses for travel and stuff, right? And I'm okay with that as long as I know that I'm putting a smile on somebody's face and I'm giving them something they can remember.
Yeah.
You know, this is what we do.
Yeah. I think it's important to note too that even making money, it's that's not bad. This is a business. So even no matter the profit margins here, right? As long as you can be a businessman and run a business and make money and make good money and still present those things that you just talked about. And that's why I never shy away from that with Journos Comics. Journos Comics is a brand, and I never shy away from that. I make money, and I hope to continue to make more money, because it helps me pay the bills, feed my kids, and allows me to keep doing this. But that doesn't mean that I'm not here for community, that I'm not here for the conversations in the heart of all that we love. Because at the heart of any good, successful business, they're going to have that, especially in this day and age. Consumers are realizing their purchasing power. And if businesses are running on unethical, questionable values, we have the power to speak up and to act with our purchasing power and our dollar and put those companies under. So again, expecting everything to not be a business is another kind of fallacy that I think people get so taken down with. But I do want to bring in, we got Bronze Age here. We're gonna bring him in. What's going on?
Hey,
Bronze?
what's up, everybody?
Bronze! What's
busy
up,
night
man?
for you,
What's
huh?
up, man? Yeah, busy night. By the way, just real fast, it's an honor to be here with Morpheus. Glad to finally get a chance to be on the stream with you.
The honor's mine, brother. Real talk.
Awesome.
Yeah,
well, wonderful conversation. I've been listening, checking out the chat, everything. It's a great conversation so far. Really glad to be here and be part of it.
Awesome, man. Always glad to have you. You've been on, I lost count. So every time you come on, I appreciate it. Always a good voice of reason. So I watched basically almost the whole stream that you guys did yesterday. Great stuff. I was going to try to get a little quote from but I was just running around. But I think we kind of established a lot of, painting the picture of what went down. And again, I was telling everyone that's here, like, you guys now, you can take in what the accounts that you heard today, from Morpheus. Go watch Bronze's stream. The link is below. Take in the accounts that you hear there from two other people that were there. So you can, again, start putting all the pieces together. The one thing that, well, actually, before I get into this, Bronze, just for having you here, let me kind of take a step back and ask you this. Just kind of like summing up, like looking at the last week, just from your optics, how did you get pulled into this? What were your feelings on it? And of course, you did that stream last night. You've been here listening today. What have been kind of the roller coaster of emotions for you, just going over the last weeks and kind of where it's sitting with you right now?
Yeah, for sure. It's weird because, I didn't go to New York City Comic Con. Would have loved to, but that's across the country for me and a big trip. Hearing the initial reports come through, I reacted probably like a lot of people did, because the way we get news in the comic community, especially news.
Ron, I'm so sorry. Sure. I saw this, and then I saw that Nick's leaving. Nick, I'm just always humbled so much by your support. Nick Barucci, guys, thank you so much. This man is just an amazing individual in this community. What he does with Dynamite. And he's always here supporting, folks on YouTube, members of this community. So Nick, thank you so much. I just wanted to catch you before you bounced out. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Okay, Bronze. I'm sorry.
No. You had to recognize that Nick is such a great supporter. So yeah, I kind of reacted like a lot of people. And I think a big part of that is because the way we get news in the comic book community, especially when it's news that is about what's happened in the comic book community itself, not just comic books, And unfortunately, we've had a lot more of that news recently. It's you guys were talking about perception earlier, and what did we hear? What did I hear? I heard fight at New York City Comic-Con.
Mhm.
Well, regardless of what actually happened, which I have some witnesses, and we've heard some witness accounts now of what actually happened. What I picture in my head is fists being thrown, people scuffling, all this kind of stuff, and some of that was true, but a lot of it wasn't true. So that was the roller coaster for me is what actually happened, because boy, you say fight at a Comic-Con, and like I'm picturing like the old 70s Western where people are breaking bar stools and bottles over
Right.
people's heads, smashing slabs over each other's heads or something. And I'm laughing. It's still not funny, but it's much different than what actually did occur. It still is unacceptable. So I was kind of on the outside looking in, and the way I like to approach things. I like to get my facts. I like to hear from people that were actually there, and knowing that, hey, even people who are actually there might have some of the accounts somewhat wrong, because we all have different perceptions. We all have different, eyes and ears, and we all are paying attention to different things, different biases that we're associating with what we're taking in. So I always kind of, put that through the computational computer here, to use an extra word there. And where I came out on the end of that was that clearly this wasn't as big of a deal as it was made out in the beginning to me, but it does present this kind of awful pattern we've seen of people in the community being responsible for incidents at Comic-Cons. And this is starting to become a really terrible pattern that I think most of us, you heard you wish, you heard John say this on the stream last night. This is something that a lot of us are taking accountability for what's happening, even though we're not necessarily the ones that are the bad actors here. And I think that's definitely something that we have to take into account, is that the more of us that step up and are willing to say something when we see this kind of behavior, that are willing to get on a stream and talk about it, get the community involved and talk about how we don't think this is right. Hopefully it helps people that go into these conventions have that in their minds and know that they can't act this way. Somebody who like Peach Momoko, somebody who she's handled this like a freaking champion.
Yeah.
100%. She put her heart on her sleeve. She owned up to things that I don't even think she necessarily needed to own up to, but she did it anyway. Man, that is just something that is incredible. And I hope that in the future we can show her what the comic community can also be about, which is extremely positive at times.
Absolutely, man. And and that's a good segue into just kind of revisiting Peach's comment here. So I got this up on screen. I'm going to read through this again. And then I do want to break this down, because I think that actually, and again, this is no fault towards Peach. It's just, we talk about perception. I think people really kind of took a couple of words out of here and ran with it in the complete opposite direction of what Peach was trying to say. But I am going to read this again. You guys have probably read it or heard it, but here we go. I am happy I got to meet so many fans, but at the same time, I am sick to my stomach that I didn't handle the situation correctly. Again, it sounds like she's taking the brunt of the responsibility here for some reason. She continues on to state, I sincerely apologize to everyone, especially on Sunday, with being Kids Day. I wish I prepared better for at least them. I hear some people making assumptions that I might not attend any more shows, but that is wrong. I may be mentally weak, which she is absolutely not, but I love my fans and will be back to do more shows. I will be stronger and make sure to be more prepared next time. And P.S. I do not intend to charge for SIGs just because of this experience. I will just make sure to take care of the line, even if it isn't fair to some exhibitor/retailer badges. All right. I appreciate the retailers and exhibitors, but I want to make sure I take care of my attending fans first and foremost. This is their day for me to show my appreciation. Again, I apologize for everything, and I will find a way to get back to the community. Okay, so right when she says exhibitor/retailer, I think people took that and ran, because I had people coming into my comments on my stuff saying, "Oh yeah, Peach even said it was the influencers." Right? Peach even said it was those darn whatnotters and YouTubers. Okay, so this is my take, and Morpheus, I'm going to jump to you here after I state my take and see what you have to say to this. To me, and I'm going to look at my notes here because what did I say here? Okay, here's the perception. Peach Momoko made comments claiming that influencers and YouTubers and whatnotters, whatever, started the drama. But the reality is the vitriol spewed by some of the gen population, because it's many accounts now stating not only this one guy that caused the incident, but even on Saturday, there was a lot of people that came in, like Morpheus was saying, some of them like went under they have the poles or the gates. They're pulling back those and going under them and rushing the line. And I guess they saw, maybe because they saw some badges hanging around, I don't know. They were actually, again, according to different accounts, Gen Pop individuals were going up to her table and yelling at her. So I think the reality of the situation is that by Sunday, by all of this happening, this statement right here, she's actually, I think she's in her trauma, and it's almost like the abused, spouse, like saying, "Oh no, but they love me, they really love me, and I gotta." That's what it sounds like to me. It sounds like she's taking the brunt and saying that, well, they were yelling at me, they were mad, I did something wrong. And I think she simply brought in the exhibitor stuff because of the vitriol that was being thrown at her, and saying, I need to do more to make sure that I separate the two, which Morpheus stated they were already doing that. Morpheus, do you think that I may be onto something with this, or do you think I'm kind of left field, or what's your take?
100%. And you hit the nail on the head with that word trauma, right? I talk about trauma a lot, right? And when people hear the word trauma, they, a lot of times, especially when we talk about veterans, it's always associated with combat. Everybody in their life has had trauma. Everybody. There's not one person on the planet that has not had some form of trauma in their life. I can say that immediately after that happened on Sunday, a lot of us, we got together and we were talking about the incident. Like, we can't believe that we were feeling sad, we were feeling hurt, we were feeling upset. But we also immediately started talking about it. It's like, well, guess what? She's gonna have to start charging for signatures. She's gonna have to control the lines, and she's not gonna be in Artist Alley no more. And it blew my mind to see that next day her make that statement. And that statement broke my heart. Now, as I read that statement, when I get to the part that talked about retailers and exhibitors, because I was in that position, I knew what she meant. I was like, oh yeah, we push the exhibitors to the back, put the Gen Pop in the front. It's all good. Everybody complied just fine. All the exhibitors complied just fine. So it made sense to me, but it broke my heart to see her break that stuff down like that. So if you go to my Instagram, I made an apology video to Peach, because I was so hurt by that. But you hit the nail on the head, because it's a trauma response. Whenever you get triggered by something, you have a trauma response to, and a lot of times people will respond that way, and they'll take it upon themselves and take accountability for something that's not their fault. And that is a trauma response, because she was traumatized by this incident.
Lyric stating, now we're twisting her words. Not right. She wrote what she wrote. That's not right. Okay. I'm going to give you the opportunity, Lyric. And I know, we go at it here, and I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. You always bring a different perspective to the table here. But here's the thing, Lyric. Her words were twisted in the first place to point fingers. All right. So you have to acknowledge that, because they were taking her words, and just because she mentioned exhibitor, people were taking that as, oh, well, she's blaming influencers, right? That's a fact of the matter, because it's all, you can go on my videos and streams, it's all up in the comments. Okay. But look, to your credit here, we're not twisting her words. We're trying to interpretate her words to the best of our ability. Nobody knows what she meant by her words except for her. If we want more context to her words, we would have to ask her. But I want to ask you right now, you think that we're twisting her words, which I do believe at this point, you can take all of the accounts, all the individual accounts of that day or that weekend. You could go back to her words now, and I think there is a bit more context there that kind of, I would say, validate at least some of our perception of her words, although we still don't know. But I want to hear your thoughts, Lyric. What do you feel that she was saying in that statement? I would love to hear what you have to say. And then we can kind of take that and maybe compare how we're both perceiving it and see if maybe where we're, seeing things differently. Maybe we see something similarly, etc.
And I'm glad that Lyric made that statement, right? It's very important to get that because now I have to go back and retract what I just said. I literally made the statement said, "Oh, because I was an exhibitor, I knew what she meant." I made an assumption just now, right? I made an assumption based upon my perception of my viewpoint of where I was at. So now I have to apologize and retract my statement and say, "Hey, based upon my position as an exhibitor, that is what I felt she meant. That's what I felt she meant." But no one, like you said, Journo, no one knows what she meant except for her at the end of the day, period.
Okay. And Larry, you're saying that right. Yeah. A lot of people were saying that she was talking about influencers and was saying that the influencers are the ones that created the problem. But I do believe there is enough context there. I think she's just trying to assure her fans that, look, you go to a con, there's going to be exhibitors there. There's going to be people with badges that they're in there, like everything Morpheus said earlier, they're there working. So they're there early. And I think they did a decent job at trying to, push them to the back. But yeah, I mean, hey, maybe they could do some things differently next time. I got my thoughts on that. We are still going to share those today as well before we end here. Bronze, do you have any just thoughts on her statement and kind of like the skewing of her statement or what you feel like her intent was?
Yeah, like I hear tone more than words sometimes, especially when people speak so quickly after something important happens to them that most likely affected them. And so to me, the tone of that is ownership. Tone of that is mental strength. And I know that mental strength is something she mentioned. And I know John mentioned this last night on my stream. Haha, you wish mentioned this last night on my stream. It is such a sign of mental strength to acknowledge that you might have a mental weakness in a situation like that. And I don't personally agree that she did have mental weakness. But I think that's just a further sign of strength. And I think that's what I'm seeing from that is that this is somebody who's not going to give up. This is somebody who's going to get through this. And it's somebody, this is such a big deal in 2022 in America and our society. This is such a big deal. This is someone who was willing to think about the possibility that they had something to do with the mistakes that happened. So many people are so quick to blame others. It's refreshing to see it. So I applaud her. That's all I can really say about that. I applaud her. I hope that people close to her camp reiterate that, the public sentiment is not that this was your fault. And that things should have been done better on an organizational level to support her and what happened there. So that's how I take that.
Yeah, I think there's something that needs to be addressed here too, and this is talking about perception because if we really look at this, it's the conversation is that the whole weekend was like a failure. And I don't think that's the case, and the little scuffle and tussle is getting blown out of proportion as well. I do want to go back before I come back to that. I want to reiterate a few things here from taking all of the firsthand accounts. We have the perception that exhibitors got to line up before doors open to the public. We have Morpheus, we had Haha, we had many people in my comments saying that was not the case. Peach's people didn't allow a line to form until the doors were open and pushed the exhibitors to the back. There's also perception that said, well, exhibitors still got to the front of the line. But when in reality, there was a portion of Gen Pop, the general public, that actually broke protocol getting in and rushed Peach's table, ending up in the front of the line and seeming to, again, I don't know what was being said, what was being yelled. Maybe fingers were being pointed already because they just simply saw people with badges kind of in the area, and maybe they were upset about that. There's the perception that whatnot people or flippers / vendors started the altercation. But I think it's pretty clear from the multiple accounts what this altercation was. A Gen Pop individual with a VIP badge starting the altercation, physically harassing somebody, turned into a couple of pushes. Security came in and defused it. So there's a couple more things I want to talk about tonight. And one's going to relate back to C2E2 and my involvement in my live streams and my conversations regarding C2E2 and the unbelievable drama that caused me. But before I do that, I do want to say this. I really believe that a lot of the frustration and talk that came after this event honestly has to do, and again, please guys, don't take this. We just talked about Peach. She is not to blame for anything, but I do think that there was different things that could have been done for Peach and her team to prepare for this. I didn't think she'd realize that there would be so many people demanding that. And I know, Bronze, you three last night talked about this a lot. It was a lot. There was a lot of people there that wanted their Peach signatures. And I think, they should have, I already said this, 10 was too much, limit it to 3, limit it to 5 maybe. And don't let them get back in line. You stand in line, you get your few. And even if there's a few people that can't make it and they're allowing 3 to 5, you can still get a few for some other folks. You can still get 1 or 2 to flip if you want to do that. That's fine. It also would have made the line go quicker, right? Don't let them get back in line. But the bottom line was these lines were so long, and I can imagine in Morpheus, you being there each day. I'm assuming that there was probably a lot of people that never got to the booth to get their book signed. Do you think that's fact?
That's a fact. That's a fact.
Including you. Right. So, again, and I'm asking the question, could it be? I'm kind of asking the question and inserting this as, I think there is some truth here, but it's my opinion. It's my truth. It's not the truth. I think a lot of this is entitlement from collectors. And whether you want it, look, you can label them like you want. Maybe some of these people have their 10 books and they wanted to flip them all. Maybe they wanted to keep a few and flip a few. Maybe they wanted to keep them all and they just love Peach. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, I think a lot of people were so emotional because they didn't get theirs that it allowed them to go back in their emotions and either distort what happened in their own words, or it allowed them to hear somebody else's words and be vulnerable to those words that were, taken out of context, and then to ride that bandwagon. Morpheus, what are your thoughts on that?
So honestly, that statement's prejudicial.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that. It is, because now we're labeling the collectors and calling them bad. And so then I have to stop and say, like, wait a minute, I have to always go back to individual accountability. Every group has its bad apples. At the end of the day, there are good collectors and bad collectors. There's good whatnotters, there's bad whatnotters. There's good vendors, there's bad vendors in the day. So that statement's prejudicial. Now we're judging them. And now even calling them, right? At the end of the day, we're all part of this community, so that's not fair to say that. So that's my take. That is how I feel. Right. That is how I feel about it. I will not judge anybody. I judge no one. I say what I say. They say what they say. We talk about it. We call it a day at the end of the day. So I look at it because I know a lot of great collectors that are great people. And we got a couple of chuckleheads that decided they wanted to break protocol and cause a ruckus. At the end of the day, it's individual accountability, period.
Well, let me ask you this. If that little scuffle didn't happen, we'll see. But then that changes a lot because, who knows what Peach's reaction would have been at that point. I understand that. I think she was probably already overwhelmed. I think because there was like a lot of that. There was a lot of in her face, the yelling that happened the day before.
That's the thing. Like, I mean, you can talk about the fight, between the two individuals. And I think that given the scope of that, we can easily point to those two people and say they're giving the situation a pretty bad name. But the group of people that were at the front of her line early, demanding, you know, from what I've heard from John last night, yelling, that to me is, you know, that is a larger group of collectors, and I bet that had a more significant impact on. I mean, I don't know. We're talking about that perception thing, but that happened right in front of Peach Momoko, and I know that it, you know, from the statement I saw, her husband is saying that, you know, she was on earbuds and kind of like, you know, woke up her attention to this group of people yelling at them, being angry at the very least. So I think that's something that kind of needs to get pointed out, is that maybe it wasn't the fight so much as the action of these other collectors.
Right. Okay. So, and you know, one or the other could have been, you know, the fight could have been kind of the thing that just, it was the icing on the cake at that point. But so I guess what I'm trying to get to is, now, obviously we have individuals that are Gen Pop at this show that are not acting as they should. They're not respecting, you know, the fact that this is a privilege right now. Even if I don't, you know, you may have paid money to get in, you may have paid for VIP, but you know, you have an artist here that is doing so much to go out of her way to get you something that in this day and age could cost a good amount of money, and she's allowing you to have those for free. I think we all can agree, without being, you know, prejudicial or prejudgmental on, you know, throwing people into boxes. But there were individuals that acted up and they shouldn't have. I think the clear thing that we need, that all these people that are, you know, pointing fingers, you all need to realize that you're wrong. And I think I could factually say that you're wrong. Those that wanted to come out and simply say whatnot, influencers, YouTubers, exhibitors, shame on you. You're wrong, because this is simply a lot of different people, a lot of them Gen Pop, that were just acting up, and we have to acknowledge that, right? But then from there, I'm wondering if none of these incidents happened and it was simply just a long line. I'm wondering what the dialogue would have been. Okay, and now I'm kind of choking up on my words, but I'm trying to find the right question to ask, because Morpheus, I think it's very important what you said for me to scale back and look at. So how do we hold? There's always individual accountability. And I think we can sum this up and simplify it and say, well, how do we solve any problem? You have to hold yourself accountable, obviously. But we still need to look at this in a more macro perspective and say, how do we look at a situation like this and as a community move it forward? And what I'm trying to look at here is that there are people that are, and again, I'm not trying to label them, whether they're collectors because they're in the hobby for some reason, however they collect, if they flip, I don't care. There are people out there that act just as nasty as those who they may be pointing fingers at, is basically what I'm trying to say. So I think it's the moral of what I'm trying to get to here is that we could take this incident if we keep getting, and say we get more people's accounts and we keep getting more facts of what happened. We can sit here and stereotype Gen Pop collectors and start putting that, you know, scarlet letter on them and doing the same thing to them that people are doing to whatnot influencers, because of, yes, there's been some bad behavior from some people that sell and whatnot, or that are on YouTube, whatever, sure. Now, but we can definitely take that. So that's the irony, I think, in this, is that, no, guys, let's flip. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that. Morpheus is not going to do that. Bronze is not going to do that. We're not going to stoop to that level because it doesn't solve anything. But, oh, the irony, right? So this is where I want to take it back to C2E2. And if you go back to my first name, and of course, I want both of your guys' thoughts on this. Let me get some water first real quick.
I'm sorry, real fast. I got to call out Shane's comment in chat. I think Morpheus is too. You keep saying Gen Pop collectors, which I totally know what you mean. But every time you say it, I picture like, prison talk. I love it. It's great.
Of course, the
Maybe
context
there.
Oh my gosh, the context was of individuals attending the con, obviously.
Of course.
Okay, so let's go back now. And again, I don't want to be too long-winded on this because it's happened. Most of you were there. Remember, though, I first came out and did a stream with the C2E2 stuff when all we had was a couple people on Facebook saying, people are cutting lines. That's it. I came out and said, guys, calm down. We don't know anything yet. We cannot start pointing fingers and picking up pitchforks. The next day, what happened? Somebody that will remain nameless at this point posted a meme that they made with certain individuals that sell on whatnot and that might have YouTube channels or etc. And the clown emojis, talking crap, the curse words, all this stuff. And look, I was emotional. I reacted and I came on, I got loud, I yelled because I'm sick of it. And then what happened with me? Oh, I'm defending the influencers. I'm defending all this stuff. And then I went and got, sadly and unfortunately, another individual of this community that I highly respected ended up putting my name in their mouth. And then I tried to communicate with this individual like man to man. It didn't happen. I felt like I needed to defend myself. I did. Maybe I should have went about it differently. This whole drama came from me simply saying I lost like 200 subscribers. I will say,
I remember.
And which totally messed with the YouTube algorithms. But you know what? Brush it off, dust it off. And through it all I was doing that whole time was saying, don't put people in boxes. Let the truth come out because what you're doing is counterproductive. And then what did they do? What did similar individuals do this time around? The same rhetoric. They get a little something. We don't know the facts. The same people or similar people or whatever people hopping on that type of bandwagon come out, do the same thing. They're pointing the fingers at the same people using the same rhetoric. What did I do? I came and I said the same thing. Wait for the facts to come out. But the irony now, how if you look at the facts, who was acting shifty? Gen Pop people that were at this con, certain individuals, not everyone. So I want the moral of this story to be, especially for those that watch my channel, is that just like Morpheus said, and I'm going to let both you guys jump in and add to this. We have to stop using the boxes and the labels and the buzzwords when we want to react on our emotions, because it does nothing. It is counterproductive. It divides. It burns bridges. It does not build cities. I am all for holding people accountable. I'm a businessman. I want to hold businesses accountable. That's why I made a statement before all the facts came out. I said, look, if anything was, a lot of people were blaming Whatnot. And I said, look, Whatnot does need to understand that if somebody is doing something in any capacity, repping their brand, they're representing Whatnot. So Whatnot, should come out and address that appropriately like a good business should. But individuals are going to do individual things. And we as a community need to look at each individual thing and have these communications to build each other up. Because at the end of the day, nobody is going to have a community, a comic book community or a comic book hobby without businesses, collectors, cons, retailers, apps like Whatnot or Key Collector or even eBay or whatever it is. All of these things in their respected capacity are here to stay. And we do want to hold all these entities accountable the best that we can to be decent human beings, ethically ran entities, and so forth. But there's a way to do it. And boy, are we learning that these reactionary type of behavior, it's not getting us anywhere. So that's my take. Morpheus, I'll let you jump in here.
So for me, it goes back to what I said a long time ago with Reggie. I said internet thuggery and keyboard finger jacking, right? It gets us nowhere. So people are really brave behind a keyboard, generally speaking. And this is just how I feel. If we go back to old school, I'm old school. I was raised by the 90s. We didn't have social media, right? We had to say things face to face, and that gives us more context too when we're face to face with people. So we lose context a lot when we see things and we make these assumptions, and then it builds from there. So yes, like you said, we have to stop generalizing people. We have to stop putting them in a box, and we have to know all the facts. But at the same time, not only that, but we need to be empathic. I use that word a lot because empathy can change. There's a big difference. Now, please, audience, there's a difference between being empathic and sympathetic. They're two different things. Sympathetic means you feel sorry for somebody. I feel sorry for nobody. I don't. We've all been through stuff. We've all got our stuff that we deal with, right? But being empathic just means trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes and figure out what it is they're doing and why they're doing it, right? Because I say at least 70 to 75% of the time, we're judging people when they're not even trying to be malicious. They're trying to do something positive, but it's perceived wrong because perception's reality, and then it gets blown out of proportion. But is that person really trying to be malicious? No. Do people make mistakes? Yes. Right. So we have to be empathic. Empathic, again, just means put yourself in somebody else's shoes. If you were in their shoes in that situation, what would you honestly do? You got to be honest with yourself, though. What would you do? What would you do if you were in that situation? And that's what it really comes down to, is empathy, right? Stop looking at life through just our lens, because we're indoctrinated as children. We're raised by our culture. We're raised by our families. We're raised by our environment. And we have this one tunnel vision lens of how we're raised. When we got people all over the world with different cultures, different families, different upbringings, and they thinking through things a little bit differently. So empathy is being able to look at those things and just be able to take it in and realize that the world just doesn't revolve around the way we see things. There's other ways that people do things, but at the end of the day, are they really trying to be malicious? You don't have to trust people, but at least give them the benefit of the doubt before you judge them. And even then, we shouldn't be judging them. Who are we to judge, right? We make our own mistakes. We do our own things wrong, right? Like I'm the last one to judge because I make a lot of mistakes all the doggone time, right? So it's empathy is what it comes down to.
I hear it. Thank you. Thank you for that. Bronze.
Yeah. So, Chris, I can really relate a lot to something you started out, what you said about this. I can relate with that quite a bit because, I wasn't the first person to talk about what happened at C2E2, but my video was still one of the biggest videos it's the biggest video I've ever done. Yeah. And it got a lot of reactions. And what I try to do in the community, a lot is really address how people think about situations. And I love to get people thinking about the way they think. That's my favorite thing to do. And my second favorite thing is, because I talked about this earlier, I am not thrilled with the way that news and media is covered in comic books, especially when it comes to the collecting and the hobby. And so I try to bring, in a very amateur fashion, what I can to the table when it comes to that topic. And my dream is to do like a comic book news website or something like that actually has integrity and ethics in journalism. Yeah. But when I do my channel, I also try to report the news to people when they want to hear it. And I was pretty careful when I made that video to say, this is what somebody's saying. This is alleged. These are questions we need to ask. What actually happened? I didn't take anything for granted, or at least I didn't try to. But I know that my reaction to what happened at C2E2 also, because I asked the question, did influencers cut in line? And asking that question and putting it out there, I know is partially responsible in some people's minds for what I later, because I went back big time. I talked to many people that were involved at C2E2. And I've learned that really doesn't seem to be the case. And I don't want to rehash what happened back in August, but that's kind of what I have to own up to, and I have to put that out there. So I really respect what you said, Chris, about that, and I can definitely relate to it. It's something where when we're looking at these situations about putting people in boxes, about making these labels. We're painting stuff with a very wide brush. And that's
Preach, sir. Preach.
That's something it's hard not to do. Like, we got to, be fair to ourselves. When somebody saw my video and they saw that statement, influencers cutting in line, what, thinking about it again, what it's like when I heard fight at New York City Comic Con, like, what are people going to hear from that? What are they going to take away from that? A lot of people don't read the article. We know a lot of people don't click and watch the whole video. So then people start talking, and when the real word, what meme actually means, people repeating things and getting it out there in the zeitgeist, that's kind of when it becomes part of that sort of cultural understanding of what's going on. Now, where I'm going with this is a couple things that people have to remember. There's something that I really believe in, and it's intent versus impact. A lot of people that were in line at C2E2, a lot of people that were at New York City Comic Con, whether they had to deal with this or not, they intended one thing, but something else is how we're reacting. It's how we're taking that. And that's very important to understand. The second thing is Hanlon's razor. I'm going to probably butcher it here a little bit, but never assume malice when ignorance is equally as likely. And a lot of these people that I think get painted with these broad brushes I'm talking about, they're trying to feed their families. They're trying to pay their bills. They're fans. They're trying to make sure that they don't miss out. They're experiencing FOMO. They're experiencing stress from being out in public for the first time in a long time because of the lockdowns and COVID. They're dealing with a lot of factors. We need to take that into consideration. Now, all of that said, it's important that individuals are still held responsible for their actions. We're talked about that a few times tonight. Individual responsibility is still a huge factor. And I think that the community policing itself, and I don't mean policing in a really harsh sense, but I mean like really kind of holding each other accountable on an individual to individual level, letting people know how you feel respectfully.
Yes.
Is extremely important.
I want to cut into that too, because I think I think even just taking that statement, people can get pumped up to that and then think that holding that individual accountable is going into the comment section, either talking about maybe a YouTuber that's doing the video or responding to a comment being like, clown, like, right? Or, and then that's the complete opposite of holding people accountable. That's the complete opposite of what we're talking about. And it's just like that individual that I brought this up earlier, good friend of the channel, must have been disagreeing what I was saying and really had kind of a cynicism in their tone. And I said, we need to talk about this at least voice to voice, if not face to face, because I'm not doing this here. It's going to get taken out of context. Me, 6 months ago, I may have, and I have always tried to be, not professional, but what's the word I'm looking for? I guess the bigger person, not reactionary, and to be a level head even in my responses when people act like that. But I will tell you, when you do YouTube every day and you go through it and you get so much of it, it can start eating at you. And my skin has maybe gotten a little thinner, since and allowing me to get the best of myself. But actually now over the last few months, I've learned again, it's like, I can't let these people bother me, and let me do even more to be the bigger person and say, like Morpheus was saying, I gotta go into this with empathy. I can't take it personal. I can't, because I think that's what happens so much with the written word. And we go back to intent. I think some people can really get cynical and seem like they're getting nasty when maybe they didn't even intend to. And what did you say earlier, Bronze? Sometimes it's like you're reading tone, right? Mm-hmm. So you may be assuming the tone that somebody's taking. So then say somebody may have just had a different opinion and they're stating that opinion and you're reading it is, actually, I have a very good example. I used to be very involved in my local Facebook groups, so much to where I almost ran for city council. I haven't been involved much, but I got back involved in this comment section. It was about youth basketball. I actually took the city ran youth basketball here a few years ago before COVID. They canceled it. And I fought it all the way to City Hall and won. So now, since COVID, we're getting youth basketball up again, but it's now a nonprofit. The city let it go, and they're having trouble getting their contract renewed with the school district that lets them use their gyms. So I'm getting in the comment section like, I'm ready to ride. Okay, I haven't been I've been taking care of my health, but when it comes to the youth, like, here we go. I'm your lawyer. I'm the man. I'm gonna head this strong if you guys hit any brick walls. And I had said something about questioning why like the city didn't like have control anymore, or what the city was doing, et cetera, et cetera. And then somebody, or I asked like, why is it better for the city to not be involved? I don't know, but somebody jumped in the comments saying, I don't like this because of this. Stop running this city like it's New York City or something like that. And I think they were trying to say, New York City, big bureaucracies, whatever. And I'm reading it and I'm thinking, wait a minute, he's kind of saying what I'm saying, because I never liked the city running the league, but then he's telling me to stop trying to run the city like New York. And I'm like, what are you talking? Why are you attacking me? And then he responds, he was like, well, you asked. And I'm like, what? Dude, this is why I've stayed off of these groups. And then I went and read it back. And I was like, oh, crap. He was speaking in general. He was saying the city leaders need to stop trying to bring in all this bureaucracy into these little, these sports leagues and trying to act like they're New York City. And I'm like, oh, so I went and hit him up in the private message, and I'm like, yo, I think I completely took your words wrong. This is what I thought you said. Now I'm looking at it. Did you mean this? Because if you did, I agree with you 100%. And he was like, yep. It's like, it's all good. I'm like, oh, so you guys, so like, if I didn't catch that, I was the bad guy. I started antagonizing him, and he's probably like, why is this guy attacking me? Screw you. And then now we're enemies. And it's like, so I just thought that was a good example to point out to where, again, going back to what Morpheus said, empathy, guys. We got to take a step back. We got to cool off. We got to take a deep breath. And just really communicate, have the empathy, put yourself in the other people's shoes, and keep having this conversation. You want to ask how we can hold whatnot people, vendors, cons, retailers that make exclusive variants, artists, publishers, YouTubers, whoever you want to coin as influencers, but even the average collector. How do we hold everyone accountable? By having these conversations and applying every little key element and factor that we brought up today. So,
Chris, can I add something to that?
Absolutely.
So, a lot of what you just said, man, it's I'm noticing, like, a lot of people came at me in DMs and stuff like that after everything happened at C2E2 and even stuff that's happened since then, right? And a lot of times I notice what I'm doing over and over is they're coming out and they're saying, this person is X, this person is doing this person is at it again. What's the deal with this person? And, those same people oftentimes are going to that person's feeds, whatever social media they're part of, and they're being extremely negative. They're being hurtful, calling names, describing their bodies and appearances, all these kind of things. And I know there's people that think like, oh, they should toughen up or whatever. But you got to remember, like, even the people that you think are so huge in our community, and this is where I'll name names because they're large members of our community, the Comic Toms, the Gem Meds, they are very, very small fries in the world of what people would consider like influencers or social media personalities. I'm not trying to take away from them. It's just the reality. We're in a very niche community.
Right.
Gem Med has like 150,000 subscribers on YouTube. That's really awesome. That's massive compared to like what I do. Chris, you have a massive following compared to what I do. It's all relative. But really, influencers, we're talking like millions of followers. We're talking like, you know, these people, and though when you have millions of followers, when you have the income that comes with that, the spotlight on you that comes with that, you shouldn't be rude or aggressive or hurtful or mean to people. You should have empathy, like Morpheus was saying. But I know that at a certain level, you expect a little of that coming your way. When you're somebody who's just filming a few videos on YouTube and putting your thoughts out there and trying to be part of a community, again, I should never, never excuse somebody going after some of those bigger people, but really think about what you're doing when you're talking to those people. It's like the people that go, your player on your team played like crap last night, and there's people that go on their Twitter feed and they, send them death threats and stuff.
Yeah.
That reflects more on that person to me than the pro athlete or whatever in that situation, and really stop and think about it. Because I've had some of those people reach out to me and share how hurt they were by things. And it's a way bigger impact than you might think. It's that impact versus intent. It might be way different than what you're expecting. Again, hold people accountable. Do it respectfully. I urge you, please.
Yeah, because I do believe too. Again, nobody is going to get the results or the resolve that they want. They never will. They're just going to be perpetuating the same burning flames that burns the bridges. And sooner or later, you're going to keep adding fuel to it. Not only is it going to bring, or it's like, you're trying to burn down that side of the neighborhood, but you keep adding fuel to it. You're going to burn your own house down sooner or later. And it's just, it's not worth it. Morpheus, any, I think we're definitely probably wrapping up here. We said a whole lot to this, but I definitely want to let you get another opportunity here to just, speak your mind and any just kind of thoughts to sum up this topic of discussion.
Well, I feel, I guess it's just how I feel, with our day and age of social media, outside of just taking things out of context because of texting and stuff like that, right? A big problem is, I feel that individuals, if people don't agree with somebody, they get canceled.
Yeah. Right.
So you get these groups when you got the chat, you got people in the chat going, and you got to post. And when you have conflicting ideas, if, some people, I feel that some people feel like when someone doesn't agree with them, they get dismissed, and they try to surround themselves with all these like-minded people. The problem with that goes back to what I said at the beginning of the stream. The only way you can grow as a human being is through conflict. You need to have your thought processes challenged. I strive for that. I love that. One of my favorite people so far in the chat was his name, Lyric.
Yep.
I loved his thought process. I felt challenged by him, and I loved it. It made me have to stop and rethink and realize that I misspoke. And that allows me to be able to analyze myself. But I feel like one of the big problems is that people don't like being challenged anymore. And, again, this is just how I feel. And because they don't want to be challenged, they want everybody to agree with them. And if you don't agree with them, then they don't want to deal with you. Well, then, like, from my perspective, and I can only speak for me, like, I don't want a bunch of me's around me.
Yeah.
I can barely tolerate myself half the time. So if I had more of me around me, I'd go nuts, right? I want people with differing opinions so that I can grow and become a better person, and I feel that social media has just really muddled that completely, because we got all these people behind keyboards. They can say and do whatever they want, and there's no accountability.
Yeah.
There's no accountability behind a keyboard. It's hard outside of getting banned temporarily, and they create other accounts, and then there's just a perpetuating cycle, So that's just my last 3 cents on that piece. It's just that, and going down to the accountability piece, individual accountability, like there's things, like you said, as a community, we got to be able to check each other, but we got to do it in such a healthy way that we can just listen to each other, just take the time to listen, and that takes, again, talks like this. We have to keep doing this right here, what we're doing right here. We have to keep doing this. We can't stop it. It's the only way. When we bring other individuals together so we can discuss these things, so that people in the audience can hear it, and they're not just stuck behind a keyboard arguing with each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And keep in mind too, folks, I know it's tough for you guys, and I always say, like, in my chats, it's a two-way conversation. I always love having panels here to get more faces and voices. and I know it's hard for you all. Not everyone here has a YouTube channel, but and you're kind of stuck to the written word, right? But even there, you can do your best to try to flesh things out, ask questions. Don't just read one thing and assume you understand their intent. There's often times where I read comments and I'm like, I'm not, and I hope that I don't. Maybe sometimes they're like, are you being just an a-hole saying this? But I'm like, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Can you please clarify or add context? And then that really helps. So again, don't ever short yourself in any line of communication, even when it's tight words on the screen. Just do the best you can with the technology that you're using to really get to the root of whatever point that you're trying to make, or listening to whatever point someone else is trying to make. Bronze, any final thoughts on tonight? And well, let me actually say this. And I'll let Morpheus, you get in on this one more time too. Holding accountability, all these things. What do you think? What's the silver lining? Just what is, if you could sum it up, what is the silver lining from what has transpired over the last few months, going from C2E to this controversy? Of course, the silver lining meaning the positives of where we are and where we can continue to grow from this.
Man, that is conversations like this. That is, one of the reasons that after C2E2 that I was very respectful. I wasn't doing streams every day. I wasn't trying to get out there every day about stuff, but I kept giving people a chance. Like I did a stream about a week later after it happened, like gave everybody in chat like equal time, like get your opinions out there. Let's talk about it. And that's because building the community, that is, nothing will get people together faster than disagreeing about something, right? We've learned that about the internet. And to kind of, I've seen small pockets like these channels that have, their followings, or these Instagram pages that have their followings, were connecting more. They were in comment sections. They were getting out of their bubbles. That is so important. And did it solve everything overnight? No. Is it probably ever going to completely solve every problem that we have in comics? No. But it doesn't mean that it won't make progress. And that to me has been by far the best thing to come out of some of these unfortunate events, is that it's bringing people together. It's bringing new friends together, new collectors together. I've seen people in my community that are hooking up, like in interacting and like trading comics and stuff, man. Like how freaking cool is that? That's getting it back to what it should be about, and having those important conversations. Difficult conversations don't always mean that everybody agrees. In fact, often it means that you have different opinions. And if you can get to understand the other side a little bit better, like Morpheus was saying, use that empathy, that is going to build so many bridges. And that's a cliche, but it's a very important thing for us to do. And so I'm happy to see that.
Awesome. Morpheus, I know you talked about the conversation too, but anything further on the silver linings of this?
Yeah, it just what Braun said. Having these conversations like this and more of this allows us to humanize the actions of others. Because what I feel that a lot of people miss when we see just the surface level, with the iceberg analogy, right? So all we see is the tip of the iceberg. We don't see the huge mass that's under the water. We don't know what goes on in people's lives, right? So we don't know what happens behind the scenes, what goes on to make these things happen. All we see are people buying and selling comic books. All we see are people collecting comic books. We don't know what goes into them making this work. I'll tell you this right now, like just from my personal experience, I was exhausted in New York. I literally was functioning off of 3 hours of sleep every night because I was racing to get stuff, not for me. Like I got rid of I have like maybe 3 books that I kept from New York. The rest of them was me getting books for other people that were collectors to help them get these books, and to network. I mean, that's part of our job. That's what we got to do so we can get to know people and network, and realize that people have lives, they have families, they have bills, they have ups, they have downs, they have medical issues, right? We don't know what's going on behind the scenes with people's lives. And having these talks allow us to humanize that. So we can realize it's not just what we see in the camera. It's not just what we see typed out on social media. There's real people with real things, just like me and you, that got to deal with on a daily basis to make these things work. It's like you said, Journal. At the end of the day, it's a business. At the end of the day, it's a business. And the only way a business can function is with money, period. We got to realize that at the end of the day, period, right? But it's not just the money. There's people that make these things work, and they are real people with real feelings and real lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, I mean, I think we could sit and keep talking about this all night long. I just want to say some final words here too. Like, I really like incorporating any of this drama that surrounds comic books. I'm passionate about it because I really believe that it's a bigger real life conversation. At one end you say, oh, well, it's just comics. And at the other end, though, it's like, but comics obviously mean so much to us. It builds community. It's art, it's storytelling, it's stuff that pulls people out of bad times or places in their lives. We probably have all had those types of experiences. And that's why we love this hobby so much. So that's why, I understand that talking about the drama, it can seem like you're sensationalizing it. But I hope everyone knows that my intent, regardless of your perception, my intent is because I want to further the conversation and the progress of not only this community, but or the hobby, but the progress of humanity. And I want to remind people, like, I was a musician, and when I did my music, I wanted to change the world. And I'll repeat it again. I'll repeat this all the time until I'm gone. My favorite quote to live by a man who truly saved my life, Tupac Shakur, saying, I'm not saying I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. I live by this. I really do. And I'm at an age now where, what is that? What is changing the world? I was at a point in time where I did it with my music. I wanted to go and try to do what those before me did, like Tupac did, and have that message to change the world. Then I had kids. You know what changing the world meant to me? Passing it down to them, so then they can say, now I'm going to be the brain that'll spark the brain that'll change the world, and so forth. But ever since I've been collecting comic books for 35 years. But ever since going hard with Journo's Comics, and yes, making it a brand, it's a business. But just like when I was doing my music, it was a business. I quit my day job. And for 2 years, I did my music, and it paid my bills. You can do what you love and it be a business. But what I love is having the great power comes great responsibility. It's funny because I take Tupac's quote and I pair it with the quote Peter Parker lived by about great power becoming great responsibility, being the brain that sparks the brain. It's that same thing. And if I can sit here and talk about comics, but in the same way, have a conversation that like reaches the human experience, then that's what I want to do. And sometimes it takes some ugliness for us to, peel things back and get to that. And that's why I want to end this by shouting out and saying, Peach Momoko. She, through all of this, like I'm not saying she's a martyr through all of this, but man, did she put herself in a situation by doing something good, by seeing the negative, ugly reaction of some people, and then just seeing kind of all the ugliness that transpired, the arguing, the and flushing all that away and having a conversation. I want to thank Peach Momoko because I am going to look at the silver lining and say it is because of Peach's soul and her spirit of loving what she does, of loving that she has the ability. She is as an artist is giving back to people, hoping that it can make somebody's day or put a smile on a kid's face or and just create that positive energy out there. And her actions aren't going to go in vain. And that's what we're here for tonight. And I believe that. I think that we're going to learn from this. We can't change everyone and we can't change everyone overnight, but I do believe people are going to grow from this. And I believe we're going to keep having these conversations. I do believe that Peach is going to keep coming out of it. Is going to come out of this stronger. I think she's going to keep doing what she does because that's who she is as a human being. And I appreciate her for that. But with that being said, I appreciate Morpheus, Bronze. Thank you guys so much for joining this. I really like, I got to say, I think this is one of my favorite conversations that I've had in this community. So thank you guys so much. You know, you both are welcome back on anytime. Again, folks, Bronze's YouTube link is below. So definitely go check him out. Give him a sub on YouTube. Morpheus, I know at the Instagram in the chat a little while back. I don't know if you want to leave that again. You're also on Whatnot, correct? And
Yes.
What's the handle that you got there?
Morpheus 1914.
All right, 1914. And I know Bronze, Bronze, are you still on Whatnot? I know you've been doing the drip thing.
Yeah, I'm on Whatnot, but I've been mostly streaming on Drip. I really like the community. I like being able to simulcast to YouTube and kind of bring in, you know, kind of my little community I was talking about earlier. Yep. Bring them in. It's been going pretty well over there. I just did one earlier tonight, so you can go check that out. Real fast, I just want to say that Morpheus, what a joy being able to be on stream with you and listen to the way you think. I love the critical thinking that you're bringing to this, and I think it's a great voice to have in the community. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, likewise, brother. I enjoy listening to all of you too. Like it's been amazing. Like I love it. I love this. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet.
All right, guys. Yeah, go get some support for the guests tonight, folks. And thank you to all of you. Larry, yeah, thank you, man. Larry, yeah, I keep challenging us, man, for real.
Yeah.
And anybody else, you know, express yourselves respectfully, but express yourselves. You know, that is how we grow. So, guys, thank you so much for being here. Have a good weekend. Be safe. Be good to yourselves and to others. And until next time.